we're back. Normally don't really have to have an invocation and pledge, but I think we'll do it anyway. Mr. Mayor, would you do the invocation?
I will.
And I'll do the pledge.
I'm about to get good at it.
No, no, you're on.
Let's bow our head. Father, again, we're grateful that we can come to conduct the business of this county. We're so grateful that we do live in this land that we call Wayne County, North Carolina, and the United States of America. Father, thank you for guiding us each and every day. Help us, Father, to look to you for guidance and direction. Father, we ask that you might would bless each one of us and the ones that are represented here, that, Father, we would actually do what you are asking us to do and not what we want to do. Father, again, we just thank you for this time that we can come together. Thank you for your love and your mercy upon us. These things I ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please rise and face the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I appreciate everybody coming in today. This has been a long process going through this budget. It's very detailed, and we do have some questions, and I know that's why you all are here today. So what we're going to try to do is those questions that we had, we're going to try to bring you up first so you can go back to work before we get to the other rest of the budget. Did you have a list on which way we need to start? Who to start
I
with?
didn't have them in order. Might be best, I think we got about 6 people from the sheriff's.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
I want to take them first and let them get back to
Okay,
work.
sounds good.
Although we'll lose a lot of security.
I don't know about that. We'll see how this goes. I guess, Mr. Sheriff, you'll come on up and call anybody you need as a backup.
There's a lot of crime going on, so if you don't know us, we're going to.
All right, let's get to the sheriff's.
All right, which tab are we under?
It's
4310.
4310.
Sheriff.
That was this. There we go.
All right, who's first? Any questions?
We didn't have any.
You didn't ask any
You
questions.
bring the man with a gun, I mean.
Well, don't back down now.
We had a question in regards to, where was the drone?
Again, I think it was in 510, it's in 510.
510?
$9,729.
I'm removing that.
Well, that took care of that. Have a good day.
That CIP went in before I was able to do some things with some other finance and make some deals, so I purchased one with some other means, and,
my goodness.
but the CIP had already gone in before I could get it back, so
Okay.
I'm withdrawing that.
What else was in that?
Wait, just let me ask a question. Because drones is the thing that everybody, what kind of drone were we talking about?
This is a professional type drone. It's not one you go to a department store and get, but it is a professional drone. And what it is, it's for low air surveillance,
Okay.
where you can't get a helicopter to. We're chasing a suspect, for instance, you fly around the backyards and things like that into the edge of wooded areas where the helicopter's good for, like flying the river for rescues and searching for people also, but the drone just gives you more availability for small condensed areas.
So, I was trying to look for the tab, but so you have something to replace that with?
We do have a drone, and our guys have been able to start, they negotiated some pricing, and
Okay.
I was able to purchase one, and so, but CIP had already gone in before I.
So we won't be losing no efficiency by
No,
you
sir.
not having this?
No, sir, I've told them to negotiate.
If I get lost out there, I want you to have a good drone period for
we-
the time it's all.
The only thing that goes with that drone that I could not get was the lens for infrared night vision, and that was like $5,000, so that's what that is for. It is for the FLIR to go on that, the lens.
I thought that FLIR, read off those items, if you will, in that.
Well, the floor clear, whatever, was 52,500.
52,000.
That's the one for the helicopter.
The lens is 5,800.
That's the one for the drone. We've got a camera on the drone, but it's not forward-looking infrared.
What's the 52,000? Let's go after the big one.
Okay, we're trading in the old one, which is, it's $85,000 originally. So in that,
For the drone?
for the infrared,
Oh.
forward-looking infrared, which is a FLIR unit. That is $85,000 unit. We've already spent about $8,000 this year on that old one trying to get it repaired, and they said there is no more fix on it. So trading that one in leaves a balance of $52,000.
How old is that, the old one?
Mr. Sheriff,
Yes, sir.
the drone that you have now that you purchased, is that the one you confiscated from Commissioner Doherty?
I've been wondering where that thing was.
No, if you've been watching TV over the last few days, a guy came in on a drone and delivered a soccer ball.
I
And
saw
I really
that.
thought that was sort of equivalent to what we were talking about.
That's not what we're looking at. I will not be flying on that.
That's what I was also wondering. Which one, was that rig on to fly it up?
Do we know how old that FLIR is?
Jeez, when you got it.
Yeah. And that's for flying at night looking for heat sources such as a body in the woods or on the river floating if they capsize, things of that nature.
Is this infrared, is it a new one?
It's not a new unit. It'll be used also.
Okay, so I know the first one we got was a used one,
Yeah, this one will be also. It's rebuilt.
rebuilt?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's my understanding. Is that is our understanding? Because I think a new one is like 180,000, something like that.
Just one last editorial piece, and I don't know whether these other guys are interested. One of these days, I think it'd be beneficial if we also had a tour of all the technology that you all have that we hear about but don't see it, and it doesn't exactly register when you don't see it. We probably need to see it.
I'd
one
love
of
to
these
do that
days.
for you.
Commissioner Douglas can tell you all about it.
Not, he doesn't want to see the helicopter without the
Ever
door.
since I got up in that helicopter, I ain't had been real fond of your helicopter.
Sheriff, could you talk a little bit about the updates on your dive team and why it's jumped up so much?
Are we talking about the equipment like the 30,000?
Well, there's,
Everywhere.
Okay.
no, just talk about all of it.
Okay, the dive team, number one, we did add 3 people because after the hurricane, we saw that we were in need of more people to be able to accomplish the mission we were trying to accomplish. The reason for the additional equipment expense is the suits they have are several years old. They are not OSHA compliant, and plus some of them got ripped during the hurricane. The new ones will be repairable for rip repair. These old ones are not. So they are totally encapsulating for biohazards, and which is OSHA requirement now. So that's the reason for this expense. It should not be a recurring expense, but that is the reason for this one-time expenditure.
Here's my concern, Sheriff. We've got a dive team.
Yes,
I mean, evidently a pretty large one,
11 members now.
11 members.
Yes, sir.
And that's fully equipped. Then we've got volunteer fire departments that have dive teams.
No, sir.
They do not?
No, sir.
Oh,
They are
okay.
they support our dive team. They come out with the boats, but we go in the water.
So we don't have dive teams with volunteer fire departments?
No, sir. Airmac is not a dive team. That is a support unit for the dive team and to assist in
Well, I
swift
got
water
an
rescue.
education today.
Yes.
I thought we had redundant services.
No, sir. The nearest dive team to accomplish what we can do is Fayetteville.
Well,
Is it Fayetteville?
Yes, sir.
it's a good thing you came here today to explain all this to us.
That's,
Because really, I did. I mean, when you see something going down the road that says dive team on it, you think it's a dive team, you know?
And, excuse me, that is our trailer, and that we share some equipment with them, but they are, like I say, they are a support unit, and they do train in swift water along with us, but they don't dive. They don't do any diving. We do all the diving for body recovery, evidence recovery.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Didn't Mormite not used to have some dive?
They have some divers that are on our team. Danny Edwards for one, I think, and then we have, Arrington has a diver, Detective Mullis, who is a detective is on our team. But they're all the divers are deputies.
Okay.
Sheriff, on your uniforms, it looks like it's been pretty consistent, and it did make a jump. And you have to replace every one of them every couple of years, or how does that?
The last time they were replaced was 6 years ago, and like I say, they bought basically the cheapest thing you could buy, and they're not repairable. The ones that we were putting in for are totally encapsulating, which these are not, and also they are repairable with basically a tire patch.
No, okay. I wasn't talking about the dive team uniforms, I was talking about uniforms in general.
What's your
I'm glad
question?
you told
I'm
me that.
sorry.
I wasn't clear enough. There was something here about, let's say uniforms, emergency, and uniforms total is 89,000.
89,000 for uniform.
212.
Oh, that's for everybody's uniform.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, I thought you meant for the dive.
No, I moved away from dive team. We're done with that. You did a good job on that.
Okay. Our uniforms, yes. What was your question?
I was just wondering, is that a typical cost, and how often you have to replace them? Do it yearly? Is that what you do?
Not everyone gets a full complement every year. Normally, they used to try to do it 3 per year. Now what they're doing is as needed. So it could range from 89,000 to 110,000.
Okay.
But it depends on, of course, just like when a deputy gets in a fight, we had one the other night, like got his pants tore off of him, they're gone. That pair of pants is gone. And that's a $80 pair of pants.
Trying to remember the questions we had yesterday, guys.
Yes,
It just seems like that's an awful high amount, $90,000 for uniforms. But there again, to put things in perspective, not only for me, but for the public in general, how many deputies are we talking about and how many uniforms?
Approximately 100 deputies.
Okay.
And you mean per year, how many uniforms do? Again, depending on, it'll be anywhere from probably 2 to 4, plus their shoes. I guess you counting that, but that includes your shoes and things of that nature that we actually do wear out every year. That you actually do have to have. Some of them actually have to have 2 pairs of shoes a year. Depends on how much they're out and about and what kind of environment they get into.
Does that include vest as well?
It does not include your bullet-resistant vest.
But it does include shoes and shirts and
Yes,
pants?
sir. Hats, ties.
Ties.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I was ready to ask you a question, that includes the jail, but I was smart enough to quickly look on the jail and saw that was a different, you got them separated out, so
Yes,
that's.
sir. Because we have total employees that we actually have to outfit is about 220.
Mhm.
You provide the uniforms and then also the cleaning of the uniforms?
Not the cleaning.
Not the cleaning. You just provide the uniform?
Yes, sir.
So the deputies have to take the money out of their own pocket to clean the uniform?
Yes, sir.
I just had some stuff done at the laundry the other day, you almost had to buy your clothes back.
It's expensive.
Do they have to be dry cleaned?
Yeah, when you go dry clean, you just might have to purchase them back. I bought some clothes cheaper than, it cost to get them cleaned. I thought about the other day, just not getting mine clean, just go see if I can find me some more.
Are you Mr. Comic today?
Let's move on. Mr. Acock.
yes, couple of things. Uniform allowance, I'm assuming that's probably for the detectives or?
That's correct. What number is that?
130.
130.
That's $800 a person. Of course, don't buy, but, basically a suit and maybe 2 or 3 shirts, but that's what we allow them is 800.
Okay, all right, uniforms emergency, 15,000.
That's emergency response team.
That's the SWAT.
All right, and then 4,000 for the honor guard
Now,
uniform. Then the dive team, we've already talked about. Okay.
We did mention ammunition yesterday.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Just ammunition is 14,750, and then emergency ammunition is 11,000.
Is that typical, or I mean, is what you need, or is that target?
It is, and we actually were able to cut that a little bit. I think I cut 3,000 off of that. As this ammunition, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. As the ammunition became more plentiful after the war kind of settled down, we were able to get it. So that's back to about a normal procurement now, because it did get a little higher than that.
If I could, let me go back to this uniform allowance. I'm still not quite understanding that. That is for who?
The detectives?
The detectives.
Yes, sir.
And did I understand you to say you allowing them $800 each
Yes, sir.
on a uniform allowance?
Yes, sir. Well, clothing.
For a clothing allowance?
Clothing allowance. Because like I
How
said,
long has that
to
been
go
going
to
on?
court. They have to go to court and have dress clothes.
I'm from the private sector.
Yes, sir.
If I go to work, if I gotta have a suit and tie, I buy a suit and tie to go to work.
Well, we provide uniforms for the uniform division, and we provide the detectives with their clothing allowance, which $800, I'm just saying comparatively, some counties are up there as high as $2,000 to $2,500 for their detectives. Because like I say, if you buy a coat every year or two coats, and if you have to wear them every day or several days, and that only just include the dress, that's, they can buy their shirts with the logo on it and wear khaki pants. But I do require them to look professional.
So that's standard operated
It
procedure, is what
is,
you're
that's
saying?
normal.
That's just normal.
In police and sheriff's departments, that's normal.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I want to find out where you're shopping, because if you can buy suits for $800, I want in on that secret.
You have to shop around.
Yes, sir.
Why wouldn't you prefer just buying the detectives' plain clothes out of your uniform line item? Because your uniform stores have a different selection of clothing, or you take your county credit card and they could go to the mall or wherever and do their shopping. It'd like me if you could streamline it and you wouldn't be so detailed as so many dollars per person.
I have no problem with that, but this is the way has always been set up, so I've maintained
Yeah,
that.
and I think originally set up that way was probably fine, but with today's market out there, with uniforms coming, my knowledge of, they sell all types of clothing. Plus with the credit cards, as many as out now, to me, it'd be a better way to streamline it for you.
I mean, they can buy it wherever they want.
Yeah.
We like it separated in the line item just so we can track it better as to what is uniforms and what is plain clothes.
And our guys are taxed on that, so if you, that's an income for them, so.
And that's another reason why
Yeah.
you'd be better off just to get,
But I have no problem either way with it, but, that's the way it was set up, so I've not done any different.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, is that? If it ain't broke, don't.
And the only thing is on that, I would have to be sure we maintain control that, that we did keep up with every man. He turned in his receipts and that they didn't go over the 800. But whichever way the commissioners desired it, doesn't.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a question for you, Mr. Sheriff. Do we give them the initial clothing, just, when they first take that position, do we buy their clothes or something, then give them the money?
The first year they get, that they're on, they get their $800.
And every year thereafter?
Yes, sir. And it's the same thing if you have to give a new man 3 uniforms or short sleeve and long sleeve, and then you got to buy the belts and everything that goes with it. You're up there about the same thing.
Do you actually use the money in this budget? I was just, I didn't look. Do you actually spend all that?
If we have that many detectives, you know, there might be a time when you have a detective leave and he didn't get his money, but normally we have a detective coming in and he would get that money, you know. Sometimes a man actually loses out because a man might get it, and then say he leaves in 6 months, the next man wouldn't get it till he'd been there 6 months till the new budget comes in.
Okay.
So that's a problem sometimes, that, you know,
Mr. Chairman.
you don't know when somebody's gonna quit.
I think one of the concerns was on the various uniform line items, like the SWAT team or the honor guard or the dive team. It's not like a typical uniform deputy, where every day he's wearing that uniform. With a SWAT team, it's only used, I guess, during training or actual, when they're deployed out to an event. So to see a reoccurring cost for the same every year kind of looks repetitious and not as needed as a regular uniform deputy.
Actually, those reoccurring costs, for SWAT, sometimes it's reoccurring, sometimes it isn't. Like those pants they wear where they crawl around everywhere, you know, you do have to replace them about every year, and those pants are not cheap. Of course, nothing that goes along with law enforcement, particularly emergency response and SWAT, is cheap, but that is some of the reoccurring costs there. It's not every year, it's the same thing, but there is some reoccurring costs because SWAT goes out quite a bit and they train twice a month. And so they go through some clothes just from the mere fact of the environment they operate in.
How many guys you on that team?
16.
16.
That's right.
We move to a brighter subject, if I could. Vehicles.
Yes, sir. You still owe me two.
Oh, yeah, I'm still, you know me, Clark. Well, we discussed this in your absence yesterday. Let's see here, that is 540. My concern has always been the number of Tahoes located in the sheriff's department.
Okay.
Seems like everybody wants to drive a Tahoe.
Oh, we'd love to.
So, the question was, how many of these were SUVs?
Okay, the SUVs that we're referring to in the budget this year are the little Ford Explorer SUVs. They're not the Tahoes.
Tell me why we would go with that versus.
Okay, they are all-wheel drive, and they're much better for inclement weather. Plus, it's a lot easier for the deputy to get in and out of because of all that equipment he's wearing, but that's, of course, that's not the reason I'm doing it primarily. The main reason is to try to get at least 2 on every shift, because during inclement weather, that's a lot of times the only ones that can go.
And tell me about the difference in cost. If we're
About
going-
$2,000.
About $2,000.
Yes, sir.
And we were getting how many Intrepids?
I think that was 4. That's the SUVs, right?
The SUVs are the Interceptors. Interceptors, yes, sir. I think I requested 4.
I think so too.
Y'all had a lot of questions on these daggone vehicles yesterday.
His vehicles are actually coming down, like we talked about.
And you did say that yesterday.
Because of programming it out, we had to catch up those first couple of years. You can look back at 16, 15 and 16, but it's coming down now. It was 290 this year, now it's 262.
Sheriff, you're a taxpayer just like everybody in this room. And I've heard negative comments in regards to those large Tahoes being driven around by primarily the sheriff's department.
I'll address that.
And you've addressed it.
I will address that.
Oh, you will address it?
Yes, sir. 4 of those are crime scene vehicles, whether it be arson or basic crime scene vehicles. So either a Tahoe, Suburban, or a pull-around trailer, that's our options. I drive a Tahoe. Don't have to, but I do. I have 4 other staff members that have Tahoes. Now, whenever we have to go somewhere or something, one of us drives, because you can definitely get more in there and more comfortable, so we drive our Tahoes. They are four-wheel drive also. So during inclement weather, not only do we have the small SUVs, 90% of the time, we come out with those Tahoes and either answer calls, transport people like nurses to the hospital, or whatever the need is. So there is in my opinion, there is a need for the four-wheel drive Tahoe. I don't have a lot of them, but I do have several. But the ones that I have requested are the smaller Interceptors for the patrol.
You know, you've heard the phrase "perception is reality" in a lot of people's minds.
Yes,
and
sir.
I
Yes,
just
sir.
wanted to bring it to your attention.
Yes, sir.
There's a concern. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, just to give you a perspective from another taxpayer, if I need help, I sure don't want you to show up to a gunfight with a pocket knife. I want you to come with the best vehicle that you can. If it needs to have a winch on it, that you can how to snake somebody out of a ditch. And if you don't have the right size vehicle, you can have the best winch in the world, but the winch will pull the little vehicle into the ditch with the other thing. I do a lot of my own work beyond this building right here. And I have a 2000 Expedition that's it's on the 1500 chassis type, and I have a 2500 Silverado. And somebody asked me, why did I go get the Silverado? I said, I did not want to go this time with less than I needed. So you're talking to a taxpayer who tends to want to make sure that I have what it takes to go do the job. And if I'm in an emergency, sure, if it takes y'all coming out there with four full-size Tahoes, I don't want you to wonder why you didn't have one. And so I don't look at this money frivolously, but I don't want us to be undermanned. And I appreciate the concern of what big Tahoes cost, but the very person that's in an emergency wants you to be able to come with everything you need to solve that. And so I'll just conclude that with that.
Mr. Bale.
I guess I can get away with saying a lot today because I can't see anybody. But,
Great job.
but I'm in agreement with Mr. Kamadi. I want the sheriff department to look the best, have the best, and be the best in this county. I don't have any problem with you guys having everything that you need to get the job done. So you got 2 votes up here already. So all I need to do is get 2 more, and you got it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
didn't you say that the Ford Explorer that you're looking at is only $2,000 less than the Tahoe?
It's $2,000 more than the Charger. It's about $3,500 more than the Tahoe is about $4,000 more than the Explorer.
Okay. So that you only got 4 Tahoes?
We got 4, 2 crime scenes. I got 6 in all, I think. 6 in all, including all the command staff that has them. Some of the command staff don't have them, but command staff, I got 4 crime scene vehicles that, like I say, it's either that or a Suburban or something like that. They carry so much equipment. And then I got 1 in the drug division.
Well, I'm like Mr. Carter. I got an Expedition. The reason I like it for business purposes, I can put 400 pounds of parts in the back of it. You still have room for people to sit. It's a combination of carrying passengers and equipment. So,
And if I may, we pull trailers too. I got our riot gears on the trailers that we have to pull. And
yes. But I really don't have a problem with it. I mean, it's a matter of perception.
Certainly don't consider this as criticism.
No,
We just-
sir.
yeah, we
No,
just-
sir. I'm glad to answer any
education is
questions.
important. Who was first?
He was.
I'm gonna get off that subject.
I was going to as well.
All right.
Yeah, we're bouncing all around because we bounced all around yesterday, so it's no rhyme or reason questions. But I asked a question yesterday on 26104, the non-capital furnishings or non-capital furniture. It made an increase from 18,000 to 31,000. We'll just
which has nothing to do with furniture much. I don't know, that's just the way that's listed. But
right.
261.
261.
Yeah.
261,004.
Sewer service 4.
You got it,
That's
Janice?
the one where we have the SWAT equipment and the, Lieutenant Peden can answer any questions on that. Now, we have also looked at some different things we might can go ahead and purchase on some things that we've made some deals on, and we may can reduce that about, I think, $3,000, something like $4,000. So we talked about that this morning, that there's a possibility. Our problem with some of that stuff is you don't know exactly what's going to happen in the year you're in. So we try not to cut it too close, but we try to have enough to operate that. Some of that equipment is very expensive, as you well know.
Are you saying there's not any furniture in this?
Probably won't be any furniture, but that's the way the finance has always listed that line item.
That's crazy.
Create him a new item number, if you will.
I mean, we may not be having this discussion if the word furniture wasn't.
Just create another line item.
There's three different ones under 261. Is all three of them need to be changed?
Yeah, that's where the night, where we're having, what we're doing on like night vision is trying to buy 2 sets a year, because that stuff is so expensive, and not replace it all at one time, or either, some of our guys hadn't had any yet. I think now, this year, we're able to get everybody in night vision. And so that's for night vision, of course, rifles, handguns that have to be replaced periodically, and just general SWAT equipment. But again, I talked with Lieutenant Peden this morning. He said, you know, that could range downward to about 26,000.
Could, from 46 to 26?
No, 30.
31.
Oh, 31.
He's talking about 5,000.
I'm looking at the wrong line item. Well, I think that's 20 grand right there.
Mr. Mayor,
That's right. Sheriff,
Yes, sir.
the 002 line and the 003, I see there's no request or recommendation. Did you actually take some of that and pull it down into 004?
I
Or
don't,
not?
you'll have to tell me what it's
Well,
called.
it's the same thing, non-capital furniture, 002, 003, and we're talking about 004.
Some of that may have been combined into other, I know that we tried to combine as much as we could,
Yeah.
because there were so many line items that didn't apply, just like,
Well, Ray, you make a good point. It's actually down for the year when you aggregate all of those line items.
Well, that's what I was looking at. I didn't know if you'd pull down and try to bring it into
No,
one
it
count.
just depends on how they,
Yeah.
where they're allocating it so that we track it that way. But he didn't have any requests there. He put the request exactly where we put them here.
Right, okay.
I try my best, and I try not to pad it, just, you know, I try to keep it just as close to the,
Here's the whole thing. For your benefit and our benefit, if we can have line items that are specific so that we can track it. If, as an example, most of that, if not all of that, is SWAT-related equipment, then we need a line item that says SWAT-related equipment, a budgeted amount, so that next year we'll know what the difference is, and we can compare it going back several years. But if you just lump it all together, you can't track it very well if you lump it all together. We don't know what it is.
and I don't know how finance wants to.
Well, I
have to
tell you what, I guarantee that young lady right there, if you meet with her, she'll,
Well, to
Try to
some
accom-
degree, we have to follow a set chart of accounts for local governments, which is set by the local government commission. So that's why we have things divided up between office supplies, non-capital furniture and equipment. I mean,
see, now we're getting into the rules of government that nobody understands.
well, I know, but that's not coming from us. So what we have to do, because when audit comes around, we have to be able to classify this, because they're gonna compare your government across the board to all the other governments.
Well, see what you can do to accommodate.
Okay, we'll see if we can classify it a little more specifically.
Just take a look at it. Just take a look at it. If you can't.
Sheriff, we were talking about a while ago, we're jumping all over back and forth. And we've talked about this briefly, but one red flag came up was the non-cap equipment dive. And it went from $1,500 to $29,825. And I understand it's a new program and that's cost associated with your program. But can you go through the details on it just a little bit on justification?
Which item is that?
Which number?
6107.
Which one?
That, is that,
All right, that's
those
gonna be
dive suits I was referring to a while ago.
261,007.
Same thing I was referring to a while
I'm
ago.
guessing because we got about 3 line items with dive on it, and from uniforms to equipment.
Yeah, uniforms are basically what they wear to get to where they're going. You know, that's street clothes, so to speak. And the 29,825, that is for the actual, to bring it up to OSHA standards and to replace those torn suits, which will bring them up to OSHA standards. That's basically all I can explain on that. They're just expensive.
So that's the 11 or 12 members you have being outfitted with a new DOL-approved suit.
That's right, for swiftwater and for diving.
So hopefully that'll be a one-time until maybe 5 or 6 years. whatever
That's
it is.
right. It is not a recurring cost. Now, may I tell you what we do with the dive team? I think there's some question about what the dive team does. I have the stats here. 11 members, 8 are full-time deputies, 3 are part-time deputies. Last year conducted 24 call-outs, resulted in rescue of 19 victims from floodwaters, the recovery of a drowning victim, assistance to 7 missing boaters, the recovery of a vehicle from a creek, and the recovery of a stolen firearm from Mount Olive. So that's what they did last year.
And then right back to dive team, the dive team training, 395,007.
That is to bring, when I came into office, they were not up to standards. Because of the environment they operate in, it's, I think, detrimental to me and to you not to have them up to, actually NFPA, I didn't realize that, regulates dive teams. And to bring them up to OSHA and the NFPA suggested standards, they have to be certified master divers. And to do that, they have to get a certain amount of training, and they have to have that through certified instructors. So there's a limited number of places you can go and get that, and for swiftwater rescue as well. So that's the reason our training is much higher this year. That's a 3-year process that is not a recurring cost. It's a certification that lasts for 3 years.
Is that one of the disciplines that's recognized by the State Rescue Association?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the sheriff's budget?
One more.
Okay.
I think we've done a good job over the last few years of bringing up the quality of your vehicles.
Yes, sir.
Most of them are relatively new, are they not?
Yes, sir.
My question is, why are we still spending about $750,000 on maintenance? Because we should have these under warranty, I would imagine.
I don't know. We do what is recommended by the,
Well, I'm just saying that it just says, excuse me, it's all kind of put together here, gas, oil, tires, etc., was the 247. The repairs, where's the repairs on?
Vehicle maintenance and repairs is 230,000.
230, I'm sorry, I'll pick the
A
wrong.
lot of that's just preventive maintenance. I mean, the way they run the vehicles, we bring them in, probably at least 2 times a year, maybe more.
more than that, because of.
So you've got those maintenance checks, then if there is something wrong, there's an added cost there. But we do track the gas and tires differently.
Okay, but as far as the maintenance, so,
Yeah.
what line item was that?
That is 353.
Okay, yeah.
And if
We're
you'll
at
notice,
229.
that's been pretty consistent. He was at-
Well, it has, but my question is, if in fact we are updating the fleet,
Yeah.
then undoubtedly that cost should go down. That was one of the reasons why we wanted to update the fleet and not have these older vehicles because of the maintenance costs.
Right.
So we were hoping maintenance
And
would
I'll
come
tell you
down.
one other thing, our calls have a third more calls than when I became sheriff. I don't know if that's good or bad. But, you know, we are actually answering about 20,000 more
Well,
calls.
that would account for a good bit of it if your
so-
call volume's gone up a third.
In a year's time, you're looking at 30,000 miles on a vehicle easily.
I think we're seeing some improvement, Joe, when you look at what he's saying there as far as the increased mileage and everything as well. But,
Sheriff, like it or not, you represent a large percentage of the county budget
Yes, sir.
expenditure. And unfortunately, we can't charge criminals for their activities.
Yes, sir.
So we have no revenues.
Yes, sir.
So any way that we can hold down our expenses, we really need to do it. And I'll end my soapbox for the day. And I appreciate you coming and answering these questions.
Thank you, sir, and I'll do
He
my
meant on this
best.
tab.
Do what?
He meant on this tab.
I do
On
think
this tab,
while we have Major Greenfield here, I believe y'all had two questions on the jail.
Yeah, I was getting ready to flip over and
Okay.
call the jail and ask the sheriff if he wanted to, or Mr.
I'll be glad to.
Either one is fine, whoever wants to do it. Questions, guys?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
are we still subbing out our maintenance and everything on our vehicle,
On what?
on the vehicles?
No, sir.
The
It's
county doing,
in-house.
the county doing
It's
it?
in-house, yeah.
But
Kendall's,
we pay the garage.
Kendall is doing it, but we charge him.
Okay,
We charge every department for that.
yeah, and the intent of that was, Mr. Daughter, was to save money, is that right?
Right.
But the question is, are we?
Well, if we're having a high call volume, if we're having a high call volume, the vehicle's on the road more, you're doing more. The answer to that is, if we didn't do it in-house, that price could be way over there versus somewhere in the range where we could. So we're accomplishing both things.
Yeah, our
It's-
per hour
yeah.
charge, Ed's right, our per hour charge is still cheaper than.
Cheaper than-
the commercial rate.
Okay, thank you.
Questions on the detention center? What were the questions?
I think you had questions on both of the capital outlays, the dishwasher and then the
Yeah.
Morpho Track live scan station.
It must be one heck of a dishwasher, Sheriff.
It is. And
I remember that dishwasher.
the one we got now, it's not but 5 or 6 years old, but it's a lemon. And we spent several dollars trying to keep it running. So it's a lemon.
Yeah.
All right, are we producing our meals here at the large jail
Yes, sir.
and shipping them over there?
Yes, sir.
And eventually, we're wanting to ship that to be produced from the new kitchen.
Well, currently, we're contracted with ABL. They're preparing all the meals at the main jail, and they're getting shipped by them through the contract. They handle all that. They take care of it. Once it gets there, then they take care of it, and then we give it out just like we do at the main jail. The main plan would be later in the future, when we build a brand-new main jail, that kitchen would then facilitate the entire complex.
We didn't, what he's saying is, we didn't build the big kitchen because we're gonna do that when you build the big jail over there and tie it to the satellite jail.
All right, and as far as that dishwasher, what was that dishwasher cost again?
15,000.
15. Okay. Seemed like it was more than that yesterday. Did they reduce that price?
I thought it was more than that.
It was 15,560.
See, they're reduced $560.
Got a discount.
Mr. Gurley.
I got a question. We think we know what the answer is, but we want to talk to you and just reconfirm. On the medical went up from 425 to 540. We recognize it's probably caused additional inmates at the new jail. But what we were asking was trying to see if it's time to rebid it. And if we was time to rebid, could we include Wayne Memorial Hospital as a bid participant?
One thing I will address on that, approximately 25,000 of that was for psychological evaluations that was not being done. It is a teleconference evaluation has been addressed now. I'll let Captain Thaxton address that. So that is an added cost, plus whatever number of inmates you have, it is a prorated amount based on inmates. So I'll let him address any additional questions on that.
What is budgeted is the maximum that it would be and we're not quite at that, but we anticipate as the inmates increased and the cost goes up per inmate, so that way we would be covered and wouldn't have to ask for additional monies when that does happen. And like the sheriff said, that does incorporate the new psychiatric program that we have put into the jail, which has helped tremendously. It's helped get some of the people that need help, that really don't need to be incarcerated in our jail, to a mental facility such as Cherry Hospital. So it has already been beneficial, and it's really saved us some money in the long run.
So is there plans to bid?
When the contract comes up, and I'm not sure when that contract ends, because we just renewed it not too long ago. But yeah, I mean, it's feasible that we could look elsewhere. I mean, there's other opportunities out there, I'm sure, and we would entertain whatever's cost effective for the county.
Has it been being bid out, or is it just renew the contract, or?
I think.
We changed.
Southern Health Partners, we've had them, that's the only ones we've had, and since Dr. McCaskill.
7 years.
Said it was 70?
No.
No.
Dr. McCaskill used to
We've
have
been doing it since I've been.
We've changed since Dr. McCaskill.
Yeah.
We did that, what,
We changed since we've been on board.
2.5 years ago. It was a private practice being done, and it was a little overwhelming for what our needs became. So Southern Health came in, and they bidded it based on a certain number of hours for nurses, a certain number of hours for visits for the PA, and for a doctor. And so,
And we're actually getting more nursing hours now than we did prior. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
I think you have, is it 16 hours?
16 hours, and then 8 hours at the jail. 16 hours at old jail, 8 hours at new jail.
So the costs have gone up some, but we're also getting a better level of service than what we had.
Mr. Booth?
I just want to make one brief comment. I know we're in a budget process here, and it may seem like that we're just talking about saving money, but the number one mission of law enforcement is the protection of society. That comes first, before you think about saving dollars. Their job is to protect us. And we shouldn't get into just money all the time. We should think about what they have to do to protect society.
Mr.
I
Doctor?
told you I was gonna say some things because I can't see nobody out there, so.
Sheriff, I made a comment a little while ago, we could not charge the criminals.
Yes, sir.
We haven't hardly any revenues. We would like to increase the revenues by increasing those prisoners coming into our county in our new jail, because we can offset some of our expenses by that. And I'd appreciate anything we can do to search out and try to increase those numbers. And I believe right now we've got 10, 14.
And we've only been open 3 months.
Agree.
I mean,
I agree.
in reality, we entered the SMCP program after we opened up, because you couldn't enter it ahead of that. That's the state misdemeanor program. So we've actually done right well getting them on.
Anything we can do to try to encourage the other counties to lend us your prisoners at $40 a day. And if you can bump that up any, that'd be all right too with me. But we do need to have some revenues to offset some of these additional expenses.
And the state misdemeanor program is 40, and the 50, in the other counties is 50, or vice versa.
So you've got a cap on that, I'm sure. State put a cap on it.
And we have gone from, we opened it up for 20 to start with, now we've opened it up for 40 as of today.
Great.
So we are, once we hit, now it's not limited. We had to set some number for SC state misdemeanor program. And so now we have doubled that number that we will accept after now that we've got operational. So.
And I think we were a little bit aggressive in regards to when we budgeted earlier that we would have prisoners in. Anything we can do to expedite that, we need to.
Joe, what we've done in this year's budget is we've not been that aggressive. We've put in basically an average of 30 every day on average at $40, and that's $438,000. So I think you will see during the year, we'll do better than that. Because what the sheriff and I have talked about is trying to get that up to 50. But it'll take a little while to get to that, as he's saying, with this program. But to me, 50 would be doable, because I think we're at about, Fane, if I'm reading your reports right, we're at about 280-something on average.
310 today.
310 now, and we've got 421 total. So, but now, that doesn't mean you can fit everybody into those square peg. You know, it might be a square peg and a round hole on some of that.
One thing that we are not able to do, and we've been requested to do, is take on female prisoners or inmates from other, but our floor for females is full. And without emptying another floor somehow, there's no way to take on more females and house ours in an adequate situation. But everybody's running into the same problem with the female population now, because you've got to be no line of sight for them with, of course, males.
Mr. Becker.
Jump back up to 122, salaries and wages overtime, 90,000. And I see back in actual 2016-17, it was only accumulated to about $12,685. And I know that's something you have to estimate. I mean, there's no way you can put an exact figure on it.
This is the jail, right?
Yes.
Detention?
Yes.
Okay. We were trying to use part-time help, so the part-time money, if you'll look at that line item, was probably, could be added to the 12,000. What we're running into now, we don't have enough part-time people that want to do it, so we're having to bring in the regular staff on overtime.
Okay.
You can't pay them part-time wages. By law, you have to pay them overtime.
And I'm gonna have to disagree with Mr. Bell a little bit. I mean, we're just doing our job.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what
I
the
understand.
citizens of Wayne County asked us to do, and we can't just give you a blank check.
I
I mean,
understand.
these questions have got to be asked.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
And you've done very well, you and your staff, on answering them. I feel like that we're in a whole lot better shape, because, you know, we were in the cut mood, and you've explained a lot, so, but, you know, not only your department, but we just can't give blank checks.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Mr. Aycock, I did not,
That figure you were looking at was through February, so they're up to about 48,000 now.
Okay, all right.
I tried to show you the difference between what their mission is and what we are saying up here. We are all about saving, but the job of a law enforcement is the protection of society. Whether you like it or not, that's what it is.
You putting words out now. I didn't say I didn't like it. I appreciate everything they do. I would not be in law enforcement. I mean, I respect everybody that carries a badge. But we're just doing our job.
Are there any other questions for the sheriff?
I'll ask Sheriff or Captain Thaxton, just for curiosity's sake, off the top of your head, how much do we pay per inmate for the medical services?
Per inmate.
Do you recall? If you don't, that's okay, you just get back with me. Just,
I can get back with you
that's
on
fine,
the exact
that's
figure on
fine.
What the contract calls for?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
that's fine.
And as you go up, it's a tiered program.
Right.
You go over a certain amount, it increases. And I cannot remember, but it's in, of course, it's in the
Because
contract.
I think we've got to take that consideration of revenue stream of outside inmates coming in. If it's a deduction there, we're not getting a clear $40 per inmate per
Yeah,
day.
you don't clear that much.
That's right.
It's just like when we sent ours out, but actually, you can bill.
We do, no.
You can
If it's a
bill.
statewide misdemeanor confinement inmate, you get the $40 per day. But if
Plus.
he requires any medical attention, then we send in the paperwork and get reimbursed by them for that service.
So we
Okay.
can't get, because that's why I stopped, because it hit me. I said, wait a minute, we've paid for some that we shipped out of here. And we got hit with medical bills.
There's one thing I didn't realize until this morning, because I didn't have a proposal when the budget was done. Our food contractor has asked for about a 26% increase. They have not had an increase, I think, in 8 or 9 years, so they've come in with like I say, about a 26% increase. So I think the meals are going like from $1.11 a meal to about $1.41 a meal if we stay with it. But it's,
That's still a pretty good deal.
That's still cheap eating, but I'm just wanting y'all to know that there may be another several $1,000s that's not reflected because I did not realize that when we put it in the budget.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
when we were talking about it yesterday, we did not go over the SROs, because I think we said we would wait until today.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're right.
I did have one more question.
Okay.
On our, I know we had some, thing you may be able to answer this for us. We had some issues in regards to hiring jailers for our new jail. Have we been able to fill all of the open slots, or have we still got open slots, or?
Yes, sir, we have filled those positions, but out of those 27 officers that we have hired, we have probably lost 20 that you signed.
Out of the what now?
Out of the 27 that you gave us
Right.
to hire for the new jail, probably 12 of them have already resigned. So we're right back where we started.
So we've got open positions.
Yes.
Well, that would definitely affect your overtime then. I mean, we were running something similar to that over DSS, and we just wondered whether or not maybe we need to expand the number of positions or advertising in such a way to make sure we've got a pool of applicants available.
I think,
And we did that when we first opened the jail, and we can certainly resume that.
Yeah, I think you need to resume that, because if you've got 12 open slots, you're gonna have overtime. And we need to cut down on the overtime.
Do you have any idea what the exit interview is, why that's, a lot of them are leaving?
As we've talked about before, that is a place that you go in, you get locked in for 12 hours, and you deal with some of the worst people that society has to offer. And it's tough to work that 12-hour shift. So you have to be a special person to want to do that job, and we have some really, really dedicated officers, and I can't commend them enough, but it's just a real tough job. And,
Sheriff, when you say that, years ago, one of my jobs was employment service site, was an ex-offender and project coordinator, and I had 8 prison camps that I worked out of. I don't know how you guys do it. After 2 years of doing that, I could not take it anymore. I had to go somewhere else. So you're exactly right. It takes a special person to do that.
It does.
Yeah, we've got that similar situation as Commissioner Daughter said in DSS, Child Services. That's highly, it's just tough to hold on to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's go to SROs. And what was the question we had yesterday? I don't even
I
remember.
don't think you had any. I think what we said is when we got to that, we were just, since we were inviting the sheriff in, we just waited. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on that. If you look at the total, the current year is $713,696, and he's going up to $718,521. And the bulk of that is just from hospitalization going up.
There's really not much of a change there.
There isn't. He's actually cut other places to make up for hospitalization and retirement going up.
Any questions?
Sheriff, I do have a question that has nothing to do, well, maybe in some general way it could have something to do with the overall budget. This is a question about, it is a question about the allocation of resources. Is there some specific reason why our debit is now appear to me to be doing the job of the state troopers along 117 full lane? I noticed that they are out stopping folk and giving tickets, and I thought that was pretty much left to the venue of the state troopers, and I see Mount Olive doing the same thing, and it just it raises my level of curiosity whenever we are talking about allocation of resources, that unless we're getting subsidized by the state troopers, my question is, why are we using our time out there doing that?
One of the reasons is because we were one of the top 25 counties in the state for fatalities in North Carolina. So we formed our DWI task force, which is a lot of that work out there. The other thing is we solve quite a few crimes stopping traffic offenders. They're warrants, wanted for warrants, whether they're B&E suspects, we do solve quite a few crimes. Now, I do not advocate doing the trooper's job. However, normally there's only 2 troopers in the county working at the time. And so we do work. Now, my thing is, I like working primarily the school zones and the neighborhoods where you have violations there. If you're seeing an excess amount on the interstate, I'll be glad to.
I think I saw, either yesterday or the day before, I saw at least 2, what I thought were deputy sheriff vehicles working it, and if I'm not wrong, one was on the south lane, one was on the north lane. This is the second part, doesn't have anything to do with just, but I did promise myself the first time I got a chance to ask someone of your stature. In the old days, I grew up in Cumberland County, and they would have patrol cars stationed out in the open. And my thing is, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If the public see the vehicle sitting out there, a whole group of people gonna slow up. If it's hidden in the bushes, it's gonna get the person that they picked out that was speeding. My comment is that if we were gonna use our deputy sheriff vehicles, I would want them to be out in the open to encourage people to slow down. I'd rather see them out there so folks see them, 10 people slow down for the next 3 or 4 miles, 5 miles, versus they're hiding in the bushes someplace to catch that person. It's catch versus prevent.
Were they not in the median? They usually sit in the median.
Now, our folk, at that moment, they were in the median.
Okay.
But I am saying that, and that's why I preface, this is not just a question
Okay.
for you. This is a concern about how it operates. And I'm really taking a direct question of the state troopers, because they're always hiding behind the bush. And I just, since they're not here, they can be watching TV and they can.
Well, I do, you know,
That's my concern right there, is that I would prefer, and yes, your folk have been out in the open, but I just wanted to ask about the allocation of resources, but that's concerned. But law enforcement overall, I prefer to see you out in the open, prevent folk from breaking the law versus being hiding in the bush to catch someone who did break it. That's just my concern. It may not be how the public see it, it's just the way I see it.
Sheriff, I appreciate you coming today.
Yes, sir.
If you all would, though, I'd appreciate it if you all would take another hard look at this budget and see if there's any places that you can forestall some expenditure and possibly come back with some recommendations of where you feel comfortable that we may be able to cut some line item somewhere in this budget. We're looking for some savings, specifically for something we've got to make up, and it would be much better for you all to look at it and come back with your recommendations. I think we've asked you to do that in the past, and we would ask you to do that again. And I'd appreciate if you do that.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. One more question. I'll let you go.
I had one more. Medical services for the inmates,
Yes, sir.
is that the line item 193? Is that in this?
500 some odd thousand?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. My question is that included in this are
540.
hospital trips to the hospital? Okay,
That is just in-house patient care.
okay. What about hospital expense?
Depends on what they go for. We've had bills from up to what, $100,000.
Is that in here anywhere?
Well, not this year, but I'm saying we have had bills that high.
Safekeepers.
Yeah.
Safekeepers?
It's under that one.
Okay. We got a
We do have.
contract with the hospital, is that correct?
There's what?
Once they leave here, that's
$100,000
different.
bills are not with our hospital, they're with somebody else's. You could send somebody, judge has sent somebody for safekeeping, sometimes because they've got medical problems, sometimes because they've got mental problems.
Yeah.
And whoever's keeping them sends them to whatever hospital they determine, and they send you the bill.
Right.
We had one murder suspect that we didn't have a stomach. And we had to send him to safekeeping because there was no.
We're still paying for him, aren't we?
Sir.
No longer, okay.
My question was, is that my memory's not as good as it used to be. I just turned 70, so I have an excuse. But we had some questions about, we're supposed to do a contract with the hospital on energy care. I'm just trying to remember what ever happened to that. Did we ever do anything? Did we ever come up with a solution?
I think we decided that we were gonna leave it like it is.
Doesn't
appear to be an issue right now.
Okay, all right, I'm just asking because that can have an effect on what we're looking at here. So, okay.
Sheriff, I certainly appreciate you and your staff coming over here today. And again, a lot of this is more education for us than anything else. We're not accountants, so next year when this comes back up, we may have to call you up here again so you and they can explain it to us. Thank you so much. I'll go back to Texas
Appreciate it.
County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Does anybody have any questions on the SROs? It's pretty straightforward.
No. All right, you're asking. Looks to me like the biggest next group we got sitting in the room is emergency services. So should we go to that?
Yeah.
Let's go there.
Are there any guns left in the room?
Well, I hope there's at least one protecting us.
We may need, we're going where?
Emergency services. Since Mel's not here, who's speaking for them? It's going to be Brian.
We got 3 people here.
Takes 3 people to do the job of Mel.
We got 4 actually.
Tab is on under.
You got what questions you got more?
Okay, what we've got is,
I know we're asking about
you
the
know, we've got
tower.
EMS, we've got Office of Emergency Management, we've also got Animal Control. I think y'all had some questions on all of that.
Well, we've got a tab for animal control.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably the same people, but let's don't get them confused. Let's take one at a time.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
First question, how much does a tower cost?
Yeah. That's what I got circled here.
You want to talk about the tile with the CIP?
Well, in the CIP,
In the CIP.
we got one that's over $1 million.
That's the Fremont side.
Why would it cost $1 million?
The difference in those is the Seven Springs site, you'll only be erecting one tile. In the north end, as you well know, that tower that we're currently using is not in the best location for the best coverage in the northern part of the county. So in order to get the best part is to build 2 towers, which you'll be erecting one total new site and then reusing the equipment at another site. That's the difference in cost. The biggest difference is it's not the tower, it's the additional equipment that will be purchased.
Well, how much was just the tower?
I don't have just the tower, what the actual tower would cost, because even at the Silver Springs site, that what we put in the CIP includes the tower, the land prep, moving all the equipment, new antennas, new coax, everything included in that.
So that number represents really 3 towers you're talking about, and the equipment and the moving.
Now, one for the Fremont site is 2 towers. 2 tower sites, one site with all new equipment, new building, new generator, everything brand new at that site. And then the other site would be just the new tower and moving the equipment from the Fremont tower site we got today there. That was the difference in that.
Yeah. We just had to buy $150,000 to build a tower, but I didn't think about the equipment and all that too. So.
Yeah, and even at the Seven Springs site, you know, when we erected the other 2 tower sites we just recently done a couple of years ago, those towers are 185 foot high. Even the Seven Springs site, in order to get the coverage we're looking for there, it's got to be, if I'm not mistaken, 320 feet, I believe is what they said we would need at that site.
Well, that'd make a difference. But in the Rosewood location that we did a couple of years ago,
Yes.
what was the cost of that?
Mr. Dollar, I don't remember off the top of my head, but
Well, we kind of remembered it being around 150, and all of a sudden it jumped up to $1.1 million. We said, wow, what happened there?
yeah.
But I understand.
Yeah.
You got a different situation.
That's correct. It's a whole different outlook on things.
Thank you.
That's
Mr.
correct.
and I wish Mel was here so he could, you know, kind of defend himself now. But like the Seven Springs Tower site and possibly one of the tower sites in the northern end, have we looked at incorporating that in, because we were looking at acquiring some land for EMS stations? Have we looked at trying to coordinate that so we don't have to buy two pieces of property, buy one piece of property and put an EMS station on it and a tower site? I mean, or don't the two, I mean, the EMS station's got to be in where they need to be, and the tower's got to be where they need to be, but will they match together?
I would hate to speak for Mel since he's not here. First, let me apologize. Mel wanted me to let you know he's sorry he couldn't be here, but he is in Virginia with his wife. She's having some medical tests run. This is something that's been scheduled for months and months and months, so he
That's
does
all right.
apologize.
We'll wait
for
till
being
next
there.
week to get Mel.
You'll get him next week. But to answer your question, Mr. Adcock, I don't know if that's been looked at to co-locate those places. I do know, like in the Seven Springs area, kind of where that tower site's at, there's only one or two places that we can get the covers that we're needing without building a 400-foot tower.
Right.
Because there is a ridge there.
Well, the other thing, if you remember, one of the issues when we were looking at this site in town for 911 center, you do have to have a fall radius.
Yeah.
On the tower.
Well, on certain length towers you do. You can have some towers that has a zero fall.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the north end, if you went with the two tower site thing, that may be a possibility.
And it still could be a possibility on the southern end.
It's a
Possible, I mean,
possibility,
you
it's a
know.
possibility, yes,
Okay.
yes. And, as y'all know, we don't need about a half acre to put a tower site on, so. And if you own if you own if you own 2 acres, it'd take less than that, actually, so. Yeah. But I'll pass that along to Mel to
Okay.
have him take a look at that.
Mr. Mayor?
I just thought something. Can we build these towers to where, could they be possibly used when we get into the broadband?
Yeah.
In other words, can we build them to where, whatever
Yeah, because the
equipment we
broadband
need?
stuff is relatively light.
Well, I'm just bringing up the fact that that hopefully will be part of our answer for the broadband situation, because as you know, up in the northern part of the county and the southern part, we got some areas that there's, in Seven Springs, so.
I would just, if that's the thought of the county, and Mr. William help me remember to tell Mel, that if that is something that the county's looking at, because like the Rosewood site, when we built it, we didn't have it engineered for a whole lot more equipment than what we were using, what we used. So we have to do that.
Chip has noted on the map that we did for broadband where every water tower is, every publicly owned tower, and every privately owned tower. So I think we've got a good catalog. So I really can't answer your question, Ray. It would depend on where the location would be, if it would be needed or not, because we may have a water tower or some other tower right nearby.
Yeah, it just came to mind because
Well, that's part of the plan.
But the broadband equipment is relatively light.
Yeah.
Much lighter than I had anticipated.
Yeah. So I don't
Fremont
think
might even hold it up.
structurally it would be a big issue.
Okay, thank you.
Was that all we had on? Anything else on that?
No. Service and maintenance contracts. That's all it says, just is 440, service and maintenance contracts. Is that on equipment? Is that on radios? I need a little definition on that, either Janice or Brian.
Service and maintenance contracts.
Yes, it's $64,800.
Okay.
It looks like it's been ongoing for years.
Is that in 440?
Yep.
I'm trying to cross-reference from my notes and actually trying to look at what you got there. What was that total, Mr. Adcock?
$64,800.
Is that in, what budget line is that? Is that 4225?
Mine says it's 440.
For the last one on the page.
The middle number, is that 4330?
4330, 440.
Okay, I was looking at another budget. Service and maintenance contracts to 25, the eight, what that represents is the $1,800 for each fire department, plus the $1,800 for each department does extrication. That was part of that original, when the EMS kind of come to play and the fire departments were taking over extrication, that $1,800 helps offset some of the maintenance and stuff on their extrication equipment.
Okay, well then that's kind of misleading to us, because this service, when you see service and maintenance contracts, I had not visualized what you just explained. I mean, well then, if that's the case, where is the figure out for maintenance contract on radios?
That's in another budget line item. This is 4330, which is emergency services budget, what we were just looking at. And if you look at 110, 4325, and look at
Which one now?
110, 4325,
This is 911.
We don't have it.
911.
Yeah, it's under 9 in the general fund.
All right, is there a line item in here for maintenance contracts?
Well, we got several maintenance contracts in, or several contracts in there for the tower system or radio system.
Yeah,
itself.
440 there, it's 364,000.
364, yes.
What does that consist of, Janice?
Okay, we have.
4325, 440.
Yes.
You have the breakdown?
Yeah, I got the breakdown.
You got it.
We have the antenna rental for our backup paging for fire and EMS, which is on the Waynesboro house, which is 2,200. We got the tower space that we rent from US Cellular at Seven Springs and the Fremont site. We have our UPS maintenance for all 7 tower sites. You got the radio system FX software, and what that is.
See, now, all that stuff makes sense to you. It don't make any sense to me.
Okay.
UPS what now?
The UPS maintenance.
What the heck is that?
Okay, UPS is, when we lose power, the tower site never loses power, because if this radio equipment, just like a computer, if your power blinks, your computer shuts down, so would the radio system. And then it would take forever for it to come back up. So these UPSs are there that'll maintain that system until the generator cranks and gets on generator power.
Battery backup.
Battery backup.
That's all they say.
And we have that at
What
all.
does UPS stand for?
Uninterrupted power supply.
That's exactly right. I got one in my picture.
You gotta have one if you got a plan.
Did you get
Okay,
that?
go ahead. I
Okay.
mean, government is just full of acronyms. I mean, I
You're
know what it
exactly
means.
right. I
You may
agree
not.
with you.
Go ahead.
Where we at? We got the FX software package, and what that is, in order for Harris to help us solve problems, one of the first things they do is ask us what FX package you're at. So every year, we have to have this system, the radio system, with the latest software version in order, because a lot of that creates fixes for little problems that we may have had the previous year. If that makes sense.
And how much is that per year?
That, this year, which has been the last couple of years, is $179,000.
$179,000. Isn't it nice to be in the
This is-
software business?
This is the last year for that price, and next year we're expecting.
Sure it's gonna go up, yeah, of course.
But, then we got the tower inspections, to inspect the tower sites to make sure they're optimal. The camera server maintenance contract, and pretty that's Craig's, area there, but that's just a contract for maintenance on the camera servers and that kind of thing. And you'll probably have another question about this in a few minutes that I can go in a little more detail about. I don't want to jump to another line item right this minute. We got Critical in there. Critical is the reverse 911 system. You got the, let's see. And that's everything that was in there that was approved.
Well, all right, well, I'm gonna ask this question then.
Okay.
The requested figure was $453,570, and recommended is $364,370. What, I need to know what was taken out, because I still hadn't heard anything about a radio contract.
Okay, in there, we requested for a radio service agreement for mobiles and portables for county-owned equipment.
That's what I was looking for.
Right, and also part of that was a maintenance contract for the fire and EMS paging system, and a maintenance contract for the jail radio. Not sure if you're aware of it or not, but the jail, actual jail, the new jail and the old jail work on its own radio system, just because it was easier and cheaper to get them on their own radio system and keep that up than it was to try to penetrate the jail with the public safety radio system. So they're on their own radio system, so to speak, there. So those agreements were there, and then during our budget workshop with Mr. Wood, Mr. Wood recommended not doing that and setting some money aside and see where we are as far as cost on radio repairs over the next year.
Well, the reason I brought this up is my concern is those radios are getting, what, 2 years old, most of them, and if so, the warranty's run out on them.
Yes, and some of them, the warranty's already run out on, the others run out in October, or end of September. 1st of October, they're out of warranty.
My concern is more than anything else is not whether we do or don't have a service contract, is that the fact is that the radios, and these radios don't, I mean, used to, years ago, well, tube radio would work forever. Or you can go thump the tube and it go back to working. But that's not the case now, and technology changes so fast. And these new radios, they have to be, what's the word, Brian? Tuned. They have to be tuned where the old ones didn't. I mean, I'm concerned that's my concern is the age of the radios beginning to come up at 2 years and no warranty on them. And that's my concern.
And you're right on the tuning part of it. It's very, very important to keep the radios in line and tuned to the radio system, because when they get out of tune, they can cause some issues for the responders, not necessarily.
I want to be clear, we're not saying we're not going to maintain them. The question was whether you wanted a maintenance contract, whether it was better to have a maintenance contract or whether to do the maintenance. And what I said is, I want to see a year's worth of maintenance, and let's see what that's costing versus what the maintenance contract would cost. So I want to be clear about that. We're not saying we're not going to maintain.
Well, I know that. I'm just looking at the dollars, and I don't know. I mean, just working on the radios when they quit might be a whole lot less than a I mean, I don't know that. I'm just asking questions.
Well, and we don't either. That's why I said I want to see some data on it before we commit to a contract. Because a lot of these service contracts end up costing you more than if you just did the repairs.
All right. If we don't have a service contract, then what kind of figure have we put in to full maintenance on radios?
$60,000.
That only includes county-owned radios. So
That's correct.
that would be EMS, net, staff, does that include the sheriffs?
Sheriff's Department's everybody's.
Not
That's
the fire
the way I
departments?
understood it, right?
Not the fire
I don't know
departments?
that it includes the sheriff, I think some of his may be under his, I'm not sure about that.
But not the fire departments?
No.
No, they own their own.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Item 261.
Before we leave that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The contract, though, that does not include any upgrades, is that correct? The service contract that you've been having?
Doesn't
Or we're
include
looking at-
any upgrades to what?
To the radios or anything. What other support is there besides a service contract? Is there anything in there that we would miss out on by doing our own repairs or taking care of them ourselves?
Now, we're not doing them ourselves, we will still use the company to do it. We're just
Okay.
not doing it under a service contract.
Just doing
Okay.
it per unit rather than a blanket.
I understand, but in most service contracts, there's other stipulations in there that gives you some benefits. And I'm asking, we're not giving up any benefits other than the repair of the radios that might cost us more money? In other words, it doesn't include any upgrades of any of the equipment in that radio, is that correct? Because a lot of times it does.
I can tell you what is included, what was being part of the service contract. One was, every radio would be touched, would be aligned and tuned. It would have the latest update, software upgrade to the radio.
That's where I'm asking. Are
It
we going to have
will.
to pay an addition? Stop right there, please. Software upgrades is the key. That's a major part of the contract. Are we going to have to do that within the next year? I know what you're saying, George, about seeing what the cost difference is. But if we don't need an upgrade to software till year after next, what we're looking at here is not going to be apples to apples. How much would the software upgrade be? I'm asking to look at the contract that you have versus what we may, some hidden charges that we may have over the next year by not having a contract.
Okay. So you want us to take a look at that portion?
Yeah.
I would suggest that, yeah.
And I guess what maybe Commissioner Mayor is getting to, the service contract on mobiles and portables may be cheaper than repair because you're talking about a bench charge of probably $400 or $500 every time you send it off somewhere.
Well, if the radio has to be sent to Harris, Harris has a flat charge depending on what's wrong with the radio, and it ranges anywhere from $400 up just to go back to Harris.
So if you
Now,
have,
a lot of times, the company can fix it there, but there's some radios, depending on what it is, Harris demands that it has to go back to them for repair.
so with the FX, this will take care of your upgrades to your mobiles and portables as well through this contract.
You're talking about the FX that's in here?
No, it'd be similar to the FX for your main
Yes.
base. It'd be similar to this, so any upgrades. Or if you don't do the upgrades through a maintenance service contract, it'd be a bench charge to it.
I hadn't asked that question, to tell you the truth, Mr. Gurley, to see what the additional charge would be.
Because I think maybe Commissioner Mayor was pointing out, getting to say, you know, I don't think you'd buy a brand-new vehicle and not take it in for service annually.
Right. Yeah. And you know,
Yeah, I'm just going from my personal experience in my own company, that they're, you know, so just look at it, whatever you decide to do, but, you know, upgrades are not cheap unless you're under contract.
Those radios, perhaps they're different from mobile phones. When you get an upgrade, they send it to you. They don't work that way on those radios. Does Harris not send that out electronically? You got to touch every one of them.
you got to touch
You
every
touch
one of
every
them.
Yeah.
And we can get in the weeds of the radio system, but there is ways you could do that, but it's additional cost to the county in order to do that. And to do that many radios, to tell you the truth, to try to tie up the radio system to do that, would just bog the system down, so it's not cost effective to go that route. It's better.
In
to
2 years,
touch
how
it.
many upgrades have we missed out on?
I don't know what point they are, what level they are at this point. I do know, I have one of the newer radios. We got one of the the newer, we got the newest software that they've come out with as far as programming radios. And we had to upgrade it, Craig, 2 months ago
Yeah.
to a newer software in order to make some changes to another radio. So, I mean, it just depends on how many problems they find, the little niches with the software, or have radio problems, and then they do these upgrades every so often, and it could be, once a month for 6 months, or it may only be 2 in the next 6 months. It just depends on how many radio issues they have and how quick they need to get.
But the other ones will still function, is that correct? Even though
They'll still function, but if you're having that little niche, so to speak, if you're missing a transmission, part of a transmission or something, the software upgrade may fix it.
I didn't know if they would alert you if there's a critical update coming that you need to.
No, not really. Normally, you have to go in there and find out from yourself if there's an upgrade available. Not on our end of it. They may on the dealer end, but not on our end.
And there is that program to have OTAP over there programming.
Yeah.
That's probably $200,000 a year.
At least. And that's what I was talking about. There is other ways doing, but it's not really cost prohibitive for the county to even look at that.
Item 261, non-capital furniture. You all, last year at 9,700, you all requested 42,500, 38,600. What's included in the 38,600?
Okay. In the 38.6, there's one mobile radio in there that we didn't.
Why would that be included under office supplies?
It's called non-capital
It's
office supplies, non-capital furniture and equipment. It's equipment.
Yeah.
That costs less than $5,000.
There's a rule on that. Go ahead.
What line are you on, Joe?
It's the same answer back to the
260.
sheriff's
That's right.
department. It's the
261.
261 and 40
Yeah, 43.
43.25.
Oh, 25.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. 4325, 261.
The only thing that's taken out was one radio for $3,900.
Do what now?
One
Yes.
radio.
So there's one radio, but that's, what about 38,600?
Okay.
$38,600 is that line item.
We got,
You're asking what else is in there?
Well, I certainly am.
right. And
I already know about radio.
I got the breakdown here. And the majority of what you're seeing there are spare parts for the system, and I don't mind going through each one and.
Spare parts for the, what system?
For the radio system.
For the radio
itself.
system.
Yes, sir. And, over the last year and a half or so, there's been some things to go down. We've had parts we've had them in storage that we've had to use, and this here is some to replace those, so if something goes down in the system, we can get that piece back up and running immediately and not have to wait, several days on.
See, again, here's our concern. $2.4 million of local dollars are gonna have to go into expenditures for 911. And you're talking about us buying parts for the system, but none of the 911 fees that are generated from all these phones and the phone 911 charge that goes into the state, none of those can be used for these charges. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's, all that is just basically transferring over to the local taxpayer. They're paying for it on their phone line, but we can't use that money for this expenditure. And that's a huge thing. I mean, $2.5 million now. It was zero, but a dozen years back.
Right.
But it was zero. Now it's 2.5 recurring every year.
I'd like to ask this question out loud, if it's all right. Is it the General Assembly that makes those decisions about
Yeah,
who can use?
they changed the rules. It used to be a local fee. They made it a statewide fee, and then they started taking some of the money.
And when we bring these issues up, we should not make it sound like it's some invisible group of aliens from somewhere that did this. It's the legislators in Raleigh who are controlling the veto-proof legislator in Raleigh is setting these kinds of fees, and deciding that, you're gonna get these kind of charges back here. But it's just
It was
true.
done 12 years ago, so don't talk about the veto proof this year.
If you, but every law can be changed every year, let's not be naive about that either. If we have a problem with it, we need to be dealing with the people who are running the show right this minute.
We're trying to deal with it through NCACC, but we haven't been that successful in getting that money come earmark. The other problem you have is, like in some states, the fee will be like $1.50 a month. Yours is 60 cents a month. But that $1.50 can cover just about everything. And then you don't pay for it out of the property tax like basically you're doing.
Mr. Jensen.
So it just depends on whether you want to do it by user fee or you want to do a combination of user fees and property tax.
Mr. Mayor, then
You
Mr. Aycock.
said this, Brian, you said this 261 we were just talking about, this 38,600.
Yes, sir.
You said a lot of that was for spare parts, right?
For spare parts for the radio system.
You're gonna have to have those.
Well,
You don't have a choice.
well,
You gotta have those because
And these are the ones that are critical or it's going to be down.
that is
Yeah.
correct. So there's not even any negotiation here on this figure, if it's correct. Because you gotta have them, just like we have to have spare parts in manufacturing for our machines. So you don't want to decrease the service to the citizens or delay service because you don't have spare parts.
right.
What I would suggest though is that it's misleading just like it was on the sheriff's expenditures. I'd like to see us change that. There's no way it should go under office supplies. It should still go under radio repair, non-capital. If it's less than 5,000, it still could be that. Is that correct? Or Allison, does the state make you put it in the particular category?
For the 911 funds?
Yeah.
He's saying it's had to be 261 or in maintenance and repairs. I mean, this is actual equipment.
I mean, they probably can answer the specifics on the 911 funds better than I can. There are very specific uses for it. Now, we've allocated a large portion of the 911 funds that's in that reserved account for the equipment in the new 911 center.
Yeah, but this particular one we're looking at, office supplies, according to what Brian's saying, has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I think what he's looking at is not necessarily the
261.
225, but the actual 4325 under the county budget.
Yeah.
Is that
It's the same
261
thing
is
as office
non-capital furniture and equipment.
Right, but
I know
Brian
it has
said,
office supplies on the front of it.
yeah, but equipment for spare parts for a radio, how are we gonna track that? That's what I'm saying.
If you had the whole line on there, you would see it all, like she said.
We-
If the whole sentence was written, you would see all that. It's the same back to the question that was asked of the sheriff's department.
Yes.
It's
Yeah, I
got
mean-
to do with the chart of accounts and how it's done uniformly across the state, so that whenever a number is brought up for Wayne County, the same thing needs to be able to recognize for Wake County. And his office supplies is gonna be radio parts, and the sheriff's office supplies gonna be bullets. I mean, it's just.
Now, if you're talking about
It's one of those
tracking the
parts.
parts, we track anything over $5,000. So this is considered a non-capital furniture and equipment, which means it is below the $5,000 threshold. So if it's below the $5,000 threshold, it is put into this account. If it's furniture and equipment, it is put into this account. If it's above 5,000, then it's going to go in what we call the 500s account, and those are tracked in what is our fixed assets. That's probably what you're used to on your business side with depreciation and
Yeah.
gets put on the balance sheet and all that good stuff.
But my question is that the purchase orders for 5,000 or less, you can write 3 or 4 different purchase orders, and it still be non-capitalized, which makes this figure come up to 38,600.
But Commissioner Mayo, we are not gonna win this argument.
I want us to reference one thing.
I was
I
gonna move
agree
on.
with you.
Hold on,
I just
hold
want
on.
to reference one thing.
Mr.
I just
Aycock was
opened the
next.
book.
Mr. Aycock's been very patient.
Oh, okay,
And
I'm
it's his
sorry.
turn, and thank you for the accounting course. And we're not gonna be accountants up here today. They know how to follow this stuff.
We should know what
Mr.
we're looking
Aycock.
Let me see if I can remember my question.
I about forgot what I was gonna do.
It mentioned, as far as the 911 funds that come in for the telephones and all, we don't need to lay all the blame on our representatives. There is a 911 board that kind of lives in a world of their own. And so if we're going to point fingers and blame somebody, let's blame that 911 board. And now back to 261. The radio that was taken out, was it just a radio or just tell me what kind of radio it was?
It was a mobile radio. We got 2 personnel within the office that don't have a mobile radio in their bid. One of them, let's see, is the assistant EMS director, and then our CAD GIS guy, he didn't have one in his radio, and that radio, we pulled it out for the CAD guy, and we'll try again next year for that one.
The assistant EMS director does not have a mobile radio?
He doesn't have a mobile right now, but he will have one. That's what
Okay.
we're working towards to get.
All right, okay.
Only other,
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Daughter was next.
Oh, was he next?
Go after that.
199,
I just wanna make a
professional,
general
professional services, 199.
199.
We see this in just about every department, professional services.
Let me get there. Okay.
What's that include?
Okay, 199, that includes the $15,000 for, code reds, the mass notification system. I don't know if you get phone calls from it when you have
All right.
thunderstorms, hurricane warnings, whatever.
All right.
That's part of that cost. And then the FCC attorney fees, over the last 6 or 8 months, Mr. Wood, we've had some issues come up with our Part 22 frequencies. And they're wanting to shrink our coverage area and put it back on the market zone. So we've had to get our FCC attorney that we've used in the past in Washington DC on this, so we don't lose as much as that coverage area as they're asking for.
All right, thank you very much.
I just want to make one comment about a number, if it's all right, to the ladies over there at the table. And for the rest of you all that's gonna come before us. If you've got a 261 in your chart of accounts, it's gonna ask the same question, and you all gonna be asked the same question. So if you wanna get a little chart and hold up over there, just say, 261 is this general, code. It's gonna say office supplies, but for every one of you, it's gonna be something different. So please, gentlemen, just keep that in mind when we go from one of these, numbers to another, because we'll get caught up on that one in every program area. And so the 261, with the same answer applies to almost everyone that's gonna come up before us here.
So I won't ask that again.
Please don't. Stop this.
Y'all will.
The extension behind the 261, I will explain this. If it has an extension, that, like with the sheriff's office, it probably means it's specific to a program in their department, like SWAT was .00 something, DITEAM .007. So the 261 is the same, but then if you have an extension after that, that means they've probably got various programs that we're tracking those particular expenditures for. So we're not lumping SWAT and DITEAM in together. They've got their own separate non-capital F&E line items.
Thank y'all.
Let's move on, Mr. Chairman.
I was gonna say, I think we're through with you, Brian, at the moment.
Okay.
And let's go ahead, since animal control is basically under emergency services, if we go ahead and get animal control so you guys can get back to work. I don't remember what the question was, I
think the issue there was vehicle replacement and the containment boxes. So basically, capital outlay was my recollection.
And the trailer.
Huh?
And the trailer.
And the trailer, yeah. So basically, your 3 capital outlay items.
Yes.
What number are we in?
What item was that?
4380, 4380.
4380 dash what?
4380 dash.
That's just 4380. The dashes come after you.
It's the tab that says animal control 4380.
They're all for created.
Yeah, we got to break it out with numbers.
I think it was 510, 540. Was that the
Yeah, there
number?
you go, you're there.
Before we get started asking questions, we'd like to compliment them. At least their uniforms came down. That's the only one we've seen that came down.
We try.
I think we talked about, we replacing boxes, and we were wondering the cost for these new vehicles with boxes, or replacing boxes, or where are we on that process? I think that's what the question was just there, wasn't it?
Well, let me paraphrase it this way. A few years back, we had to buy new vehicles with new not refrigerated, but air conditioning and heated boxes. And we spent a lot of money for that. Now, all of a sudden, it seems like we're buying more.
Well, what we looked at doing, we acquired the city of Goldsboro under a trial period, covering them with animal control.
Right.
And we were forecasting getting additional equipment for that. Mr. Wood and I have talked about it. We've taken those items out for the time being, so there will not be any additional dog boxes, no additional trucks, and the personnel for Goldsboro is also on hold right now.
Unless you go with the contract. And Craig Frank, Craig, and I met the other day to go over the details. The trial run was also so we could collect some data about how much, what was their impact going to be on us. And Frank has kept up with that. So Craig's ready to sit down now with the city and negotiate the agreement. So, you can do it one of two ways. We can leave some of this equipment in and let's see what we do. If we don't do the contract, then we won't buy it.
So we're at the point that we're not gonna be collecting data, we will start collecting money.
If it works, they may or may not accept the number we've come up with, but what we wanted, Wayne, was to see what is it gonna cost us. We needed to know how much manpower would we have to add. They do not have, correct me if I'm wrong, Frank, they do not have one of these trucks, correct? That meets the criteria. So if we're gonna take it over, then we've got to have.
Well, here's my concern. My concern is if we're going to add this to our ongoing and increasing budget and that's going to be on us going forward, are we in fact going to be getting reimbursed?
That's what he's negotiating.
Enough to offset that.
Yeah.
If not, we're not interested.
Well, that's what we're doing. We had to figure out what we need manpower-wise, equipment-wise. And so what we're gonna present them with is, here's what we think it'll take to do it. And they'll either agree or they won't. If they don't agree, we don't do it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So basically, the city's got one of two choices. They can either pay us what we're asking for, or they can go back and start doing it themselves.
That's right. And if they do it themselves,
Cut and dry.
they're gonna have to buy the truck and the box, and they're gonna have to provide the manpower. So, we think we've come up with a fair deal, but we gotta wait and see how they react.
So these numbers assume that we're gonna sign a contract and get reimbursed, is that?
Yeah.
I understand, okay.
All right, talk about the trailer. It was a trailer.
Yeah, the livestock trailer.
Yes. Over the years, we have increased the number of livestock calls we get. That's the cows in the road, the hog trucks that turn over, people that are just starving their horses, cows, whatever, we've had to take them. I have a farm that looks after them once we get them, but most of the time we have to call him. He farms, he does hay. I have to call him. I have to have a man sit out there with the livestock for 2 to 3 hours before he can get there. If we had our own trailer, we could load them, get them off the road and into a safe, secured area quicker and safer.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
How often do you need a trailer?
Probably about 35 or 40 times a year.
That's more than what I would have.
Just like last week when the hog truck turned over. I needed a trailer. I had 30 hogs in the road.
But shouldn't that be the responsibility of the hauler?
It was 3 hours before they would get there. I called for 2 hours to try to find a trailer I could borrow.
Shouldn't that be responsibility of DOT?
It should, but animal control's there. We try to help. When it's an animal involved, we try to help in any way we can.
let me further on that question. If in fact that's the case, you're talking about a shipper has had a accident, spilled hogs on the side of the road.
Yes.
Are you billing back to that shipper in regards to the cost of that?
We had, no, sir.
Should we not be doing that?
They got to have insurance to be on the highway.
No, I thought, excuse me, I thought we had an ordinance that we passed.
hazardous, I think that's for hazardous.
Well, it's pretty hazardous to have a bunch of hogs running around on the road.
I thought that covered everything.
Well, there's waste and there's hazardous waste.
So ours was just hazardous. I thought we had that, in.
No, I think we can try it.
Could we not bill it back? I mean, I think it's a bill.
Should be able to.
I don't know.
But on the front end, I'm sorry, on the front end, if y'all have 30 to 40 instances per year, then you need your own trip.
Yes. Especially get reimbursed, I don't have a problem.
That's just it.
I have no problem if we start a program of reimbursement. If we need an ordinance to pass it, then fine. But it's not right that the taxpayers are having to provide the equipment and the manpower to go up and clean up their messes. I mean,
I
that's
just used the hog truck as an example. Most of these calls are not hog trucks. These are individuals that have took on a horse and cannot feed it anymore, and then we have to go pick it up.
But certainly you didn't have 20 horses that you had to go pick up.
Yes, sir.
You did.
Between horses, cows, goats, and sheep.
Yeah, and I can testify to that, because when I was on the Animal Control Board, we had one mini farm that we went and cleaned this person out 3 or 4 times the year I was sitting on the Animal Control Board.
Yes.
And you had animals of all different kinds, pigs, hogs, horses, mules, whatever. And these people starve them to death. We need to get them out of there. And we did this one area 4 times, one mini farm. So I'm saying, we need this trailer. Is there another economical way that we can come up with a trailer? Is there an economical way that we could come up with a trailer for animal control? Can we build one?
Did I hear someone say that Kendall may have had a trailer that could be retrofitted to do that? Did I hear that yesterday?
I don't know
You
if
don't
it
know?
does or not.
I don't think he does.
You can't haul a horse on the same trailer you haul a lawnmower on.
No, sir.
Mr. Gurley.
I'd like to make a motion to delete the livestock trailer from this budget request and supplement the program with a trailer that Kendall will be turning in when he buys a new one, and have Kendall's crew to fortify it, and that will get us through the next year so we see how the ordinance comes along with billable services. If it becomes billable services, we amend the fire ordinance or a standalone ordinance. If it's billable, we're going to be revenue producing, I can see buying an additional trailer, but in the meantime, I put that in form of motion.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? Yes.
How many times on average per year did you say you went to an accident, like a big hog?
The accidents you may go once or twice a year on those.
Well, it's not gonna pay, that in itself probably is not gonna pay for a decent livestock trailer. And we can't rely on that to pay for future stuff, because most of it is residential, which is paid for by the taxpayer to start with. So, I'm not opposed to the motion. What I'm saying is that it takes a special trailer to be able to haul different types of animals.
Yes, sir. You can't put a horse and a cow on a trailer that you haul a hog on. I mean, this trailer is a livestock trailer. It hauls all animals.
How much was this trailer, real quick?
The budget says, we put in the budget for $8,000, but I have got a price quote on the trailer for $6,500.
I'm gonna make an amendment to Commissioner Gurley's motion to purchase the trailer as you said, $6,500.
Yes.
To purchase a trailer, and I'm gonna use this reasoning because we need to be able we do far less in North Carolina, as you know, for animals, abused animals, than most any other state around us. And we need to have services available when we need them. If, for instance, if you go down to any call and there's livestock standing out on the road, and how are you going to be responsible if somebody comes along and hits those animals and you're there and it's your responsibility to keep them out of the road till somebody gets there to pick them up?
Yes.
So I'm asking to do an amendment for, you say 6,500?
Yes.
For the purchase of a, is that a cattle?
It's a livestock.
Livestock trailer. Okay, I'll make a amendment to that.
Okay, we have an amendment on the floor. We have an amendment on the floor. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Could I hear Mr. Gurley's, I want to make sure I know the difference. I clearly understand what Mr. Mayo said. Mr. Gurley, what was the difference here? I'm trying to figure out.
What I was suggesting is Kendall's gonna need additional trailers this year because of the size of equipment. He's be turning in some trailers. And I talked to Kendall about fortifying existing trailers they had to take care of the livestock. Now, it may not be the same style that he's talking about with all the bells and whistles, but it'll be fortified enough to take care of transport livestock. So I was suggesting to delete the livestock trailer at 8,000 requests, put additional $1,000 in maintenance repair equipment for facilities to fortify the trailer, and then over the next year, we can look at what Mr. Parker and Mr. Wood do it, maybe write an ordinance for billable services for animal pickup, livestock pickup, or either amending the current fire response ordinance that would have a section there about livestock and animal pickup. That was it.
Yeah, I think I see. Yours is great for a little bit longer term, but I think Mr. Mayo was hunting something that can be put, that can go ahead and keep us out of harm's way right this minute.
Yes.
They need right now. That's the only, I want to see I had to get back what the difference was that we're going to be doing either now or later. I got you.
I don't have one question. What line item are we talking about?
261.
It's what now?
It'll be 510. It is 510. It's over 510.
It's 510. Okay, I just want to make sure we were on the right line. Okay.
Is there any more discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment, can you please raise your right hand? It's 4-3. Did not pass.
Call for negative vote.
I'm sorry. Those against? Now we're voting on the motion that was put on the floor by Mr. Gurley. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And those against? The motion passes. Do any more questions?
What else is in 510? We just had 8,000 that was removed. What's the balance? What other items are in there?
The boxes.
The what?
The boxes.
The boxes. All right, what boxes are we talking about?
Unless you take over the city, we won't need the boxes.
So we can take the boxes out. Is that correct?
If you don't do the contract.
That was the question I asked a while ago.
All right, so
This assumes that.
So we're going to talk about just leave them in there until we decide? All the rest of our boxes.
I mean, I wouldn't, I don't have a problem leaving them in there, because
should.
if we don't need them, we're not
We're
gonna
not
buy them.
gonna spend it.
We just understand they're not going to be purchased unless we sign the contract with the city.
And we're about ready to go sit down and negotiate with them right now.
All right,
We got the data we want.
All right, if we could, then can we go to 540? What is included in 540? $29,950.
That's the truck.
I thought you said y'all were taking it out.
That's one, we're leaving one truck in there.
They asked me.
We did that.
Why we got a truck in there?
We buy pallets of dog food, cat litter at a time, chemicals at a time for the shelter. The Chevrolet Silverado 1500 that I've got now, when we put that pallet on the back of that truck, it's a safety issue. It's squatted down so far that you can't hardly steer it. So I've requested a F-250 to haul these pallets and stuff from. We buy a lot from Bartlett, Tractor Supply, different local areas here. They do not deliver to the shelter.
Have we talked to Kendall to see if we've got any equipment that's, because it doesn't sound like you're gonna be driving it every day, are you?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you're driving it every day?
Yes, sir.
But you're not getting food every day?
Not every day, but it is driven every day.
Question would follow up with, what's it driven every day for?
We use it for, we haul cats and let me get my head around it. We haul cats to state veterinarian school because they spay and neuter the cats for free. We supply all the students with the cats to do their final exam for spaying and neutering.
Could I stop you there?
Yes, sir.
Just last year, my understanding was that we had a vet that did all the
Yes, sir.
spade and neutering right here.
We do.
But then you're gonna take some to
We
Raleigh.
still take, we try to help Raleigh out to carry these cats for the students to learn with.
Mr. Chairman, I hate to be picky, but I don't think we need a F-250 to haul a cat on.
I understand that. The F-250 is mainly for the hauling of the pallets.
Would the pallet fit inside of this animal trailer that we just rejected?
That's what I'm hoping.
Huh?
I hope.
I'm talking about the one we just rejected.
Yes, sir. It would,
rejected.
it would
In other
slide
words,
right into a
if we
regular
would-
horse
if we
truck.
would've
Well,
turned
it'd
around-
fit in yours too,
We
wouldn't
would
it?
have turned around and take the money and go back and buy a new trailer. that
Animal
we
trailer.
reject, animal trailer. Will the pallets fit inside of this trailer?
Yes, sir.
So we'll be killing two birds with one stone.
No,
you're
it's
still
gonna
gonna-
fit in this trailer too.
Wait a minute, listen to Mr. Mail, now, cause I saw him
That-
coming up.
That way you're covered on both sides. I'm looking at it, I'm looking at the liability.
Right now.
Right now to the county. How long is it gonna take us to get a
Right,
trailer?
correct.
And is it gonna be sufficient to haul the different animals, contain them and so forth? Is anybody here an engineer on building the trailer?
I would say that issue's already been resolved.
I understand, but I can make a
in the last
motion
vote.
to
We
go
can-
back and redo it if in fact the pallet will fit inside of the. Need the 250, we don't need the truck at all if we'll do the trailer.
That he needs.
We're gonna take the trailer out and let his regular truck pull it.
That's fine, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that we delete the truck entirely.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman,
Trailer to it?
No.
Wait a minute, Joe.
I've just made a motion
To delete the truck.
To delete the truck entirely.
okay, if we
And
do
then-
that, then I will take care of the rest. Go for it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we got a motion on the floor to delete the truck. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we purchase I want to call it a store-bought trailer for $6,500, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that will pull behind your existing truck.
Yes, sir.
Okay, your pallets of dog food will fit inside of it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I make a motion that we purchase the trailer requested for $6,500, new trailer. Cattle trailer, or animal trailer.
It's a
Animal
livestock trailer.
Livestock trailer.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, have I got it? Okay.
All right, we got a motion on the floor. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
They have not made a truck yet. You could take a pallet of anything and set on the back of it, and it'd be stable on the road. It won't happen. You've got to have a way to get that weight, either center the axles or in front of the axle.
No,
You can't just take a pallet and set on the back of a trailer and pull it up down the road, and it's
He's
safe.
talking about
It's
the
fine.
trailer with a pallet on the trailer.
So what I'm saying, you cannot set a pallet of anything. I don't care if it's cat food, dog food, bricks, or dirt. You can't set a pallet of anything on the back of a trailer weighing as much as has said it would, and that trailer will be safe behind a pickup truck pulling it down the road.
If he gets it over the axle, he's gonna be fine. What kind of weight are we talking about, sir?
Can't do it.
I call the question.
You're talking about 40 bags at 50 pounds a bag.
1,000 pound?
Yes, sir.
You won't have any issues whatsoever.
Can you centralize that weight on that trail?
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
most of
Let's see,
them
that's the
can.
question right there.
Yeah, you
It's
push it.
centralizing the weight, whether it's on the pickup or on
Yeah.
the trailer.
We
And if
do it
the
all
trailer
the
will
time.
suffice for the pallet and the animals, we solved it with $6,500 versus the $29,000 for the truck.
Exactly.
And he gets what he wants today for the liability issue that Mr. Mayor was talking about. And I think we got it, Phil.
Okay, we got the motion, we've had our discussion. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those against?
What was the motion?
We're voting against.
Okay. Repeat that again.
It's too
The
late.
motion that Mr. Mayor made to buy the trailer.
Okay.
For $6,500.
Are we voting again? All in favor?
All those in favor, raise your right hand.
All in favor of making the right purchase for $6,500, please raise your hand.
That was kind of editorialized, it wasn't?
And those against, motion failed.
Oh. Okay. Well,
Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I think we're ready to move on.
I do have one. We go back to 261.
261.
so is the truck back on the deal, or we take that out from it?
Well, we took it out.
Took it out?
Yeah.
Boy, we stripped them real good, didn't we?
I'm not sure what 261 is.
Non-capital furniture.
261.
Which one are you after now?
261. 4380, 261.
Okay. You got it right.
Where we at?
4380, 261.
Non-capital furniture.
Office supplies again, non-capital furniture.
Oh, same old deal.
Now, I'm telling you,
261, to me, you told me.
I told, don't y'all say nothing. It's okay.
He's got the,
Oh, he's got the breakdown. What is it?
Yes. It's catch poles and restraints, dog traps, dog cats, feral dens, chemical capture, batons, portable radios, which that figure is wrong. It was based on a figure that I got for just like the radios that the sheriff departments are using, but we have done some tests and we can drop that price down to just $4,000 on those radios.
What was it before?
27,000.
We'd already taken all that out.
Yeah.
It's 4,500.
That had already come out.
It's already come
Yeah,
out.
the radios came out already.
You can see that's more than what the budget was.
And the truck mounts and for the iPads, that's pending the city. That goes along with the city trucks and the boxes. If we take over the city.
I hope y'all are factoring all this additional cost if we take on the city.
Yeah, I just question 491 dues and subscriptions.
$1,125.
Yeah.
Adoptions.
Yes. Dues and subscriptions, that is for the shelter licensing and the DEA license for the euthanasia chemicals.
Explain that.
Yeah, I guess just the question was, you had a 125% increase, and that's why we were questioning.
In the dues and subscriptions,
Mhm.
the federal license, the DA license for the state and the federal has gone up.
Wow.
And 440? I think that was maintenance.
Since home maintenance on the incinerator.
Yes.
That's
Center
right, that's right.
It's just a service contract that they can keep it repaired, loose bricks, mortar, the installation in the top.
Can we not do those repairs without having a service contract?
You know, so I checked with Kendall, and I don't think he can do those type of repairs. Especially on the installation in the top of that incinerator.
I mean, I can double check with you.
But no, if you talk to Kimball,
I'm sure it's a specialized company that does that kind of work. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Could I just ask, just a follow-up question on, just a matter of information?
Yes.
On the livestock trailer you were talking about,
Yes.
I'm asking a question for my own benefit. Does it have a top on it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I rest my case.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
The silver that's gonna
Thanks a
have
lot.
a top on?
Not like that pasture problem.
What was else?
About like a pasture.
I think we probably.
Yes, sir.